that when you got a home mortgage, okay, that's hanging over your head and you lose your job, that's a really scary concept, yeah. And it depends on where the market is right now, because now you're being forced to sell when you might not want to, okay? Number two, you understand that in the beginning years of your loan, you're paying a huge amount of interest.
I'm a multimillionaire and I don't own my house and I don't invest in any property. But why? Isn't a house a great investment? Isn't buying property a great place to put your money? And surely it's better than throwing your money away on rent, right? Well, when you run the numbers, that's actually often wrong.
I've been looking at the numbers. It does not make a lot of sense to buy right now. That's the fact. Like when I look at the cost of buying that we'll go into shortly versus the cost of renting is just cheaper.
Your house is an investment and you should buy a house as soon as you can because it is the best investment that you can make in yourself. And this idea has been carried on by, quite frankly, real estate salesperson, people, and real estate lenders, because this is what we were taught. We were taught that housing is an amazing investment. And for the past decade, there's been a lot of proof of that because, you know, someone so-and-so bought a house and sold it 5 years later and they made hundreds of thousands of dollars and, you know, they're real estate chads, right? They're amazing. So what if I were to tell you it was a bunch of crap? What if I told you that the reason why housing market has been so amazing is because we're in a recovering market and this is not a normal market that we're in. And perhaps you should not be looking at your house as an investment because it's a very limiting belief.
By the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class. And we will do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle class Americans, not just investors. Because, you know, some corporate landlords, some of them buy dozens, if not hundreds of houses and apartments. Then they turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. And it can make it impossible then for regular people to be able to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms.
Is this even a real phenomenon? I don't believe any of this now. But everybody likes the housing talk, and both sides love the housing. I think it's all bullshit, but you know, whatever.
Price fixing software to do it.
How is insulin a new service? Because the insulin that's available today is infinitely better than the dog shit insulin that was available decades ago.
It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices. Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, and we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle class and working Americans. The Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit. Through which millions of Americans with children got to keep more of their hard-earned income. We know this works and has a direct impact on so many issues, including child poverty. We know it works. So as president, I'll not only restore that tax cut, but expand it. We will provide $6,000 in tax relief to families during the first year of a child's life.
What is the Earned Income Tax Credit? I think that if you earn under a certain amount of money and you work, and especially if you have a kid, the more you work, I think you get you get big bonuses on your taxes for working, and especially if you have a kid, I think it boosts it a lot. But if you yeah, and it's a refundable tax credit as well, I believe. So you can end up getting more money back than you even paid in, or if you paid nothing, you could still get money back. I think the EITC is refundable, right?
Now think what that means.
Yes.
Think what that means. That is a vital, vital year of critical development of a child. And the cost can really add up, especially for young parents who need to buy diapers and clothes and a car seat and so much else. And we will do this while reducing the deficit. Compare my plan with what Donald Trump intends to do. He plans to give billionaires massive tax cuts year after year. And he plans to cut corporate taxes by over $1 trillion, even as they pull in record profits. And that's on top of the $2 trillion tax cut he already signed into law when he was president, which, by the way, overwhelmingly went to the wealthiest Americans and corporations and exploded the national deficit. You know, I think that if you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for. Look who they fight for. Donald Trump fights for billionaires and large corporations. I will fight to give money back to working and middle-class Americans. So I'll end with this. 2 days ago, Donald Trump was here in North Carolina. He said he was going to talk about the economy. I think you all watched. You know what I'm about to say. But he offered no serious plans to reduce costs for middle-class families. No plan to expand access to housing or health care. And that, actually, I think for most of us, was not.
What's your take on the housing problems that many Americans are complaining of? How do you think we should address it? I mean, what she's saying is probably fine. This is like, I think people are retarded when it comes to homes, and so you have to play into the retardation. I think that Americans viewing home ownership as like a final end goal and like an ultimate determiner of your successful in life, I think is dumb. And I think that having your home be your primary wealth vehicle, I think is also really dumb. But I mean, I don't know, people, it's a very American idea, and I mean, you should probably play into it if you're a politician and you're running in the American presidency. So, yeah. Why is it dumb? Homes generally always gain value, and you can leverage it and live in it. Because your place that you live is a place you live. You're paying money to live there. It's not a wealth vehicle. You're not usually leveraging it, or you should like taking loans out against it to try to access some of this appreciation. I just think it's dumb. And it comes with, and it's wealth that's locked into a particular spot. It's hyper undiversified. You're super vulnerable to certain swings in the market. There's like it can be destroyed. There's just like, but this is just it's a very emotional feeling. It's a very poor and middle class like financial retardation mindset of like the home is the most important wealth building thing. It's a financially illiterate person's idea. But the majority of people in the country are financially illiterate, including you motherfuckers. So you're like, homeownership. It's the most expensive thing most people will own in their lifetime, and valuable to people's spirit because they grow families in them. Hard to understand for a 35-year-old permanent bachelor. So if you want to buy a house to settle down with a family because that's your goal, that's fine. But the problem is you don't view it as just that, because that's not enough for you. So what you just said isn't enough. Because if you wanted to have a house as just a place to raise a family, then you would say, oh, I'm buying a house because I want to raise a family, and that's what I'm going to do. That's a totally acceptable reason to buy a house. But even you don't think that's good enough, and that's why you pad it with retarded shit like, it's a very important investment vehicle so I can build my fucking wealth. Really? Wow. What wealth do you have? You had a house that you bought for $300,000, and now it's worth $1.5 million. What do you have to show for it? What is that $1.5 million doing for you? How are you going to access it? Are you going to get a home equity line of credit to buy shit on? What the fuck? What do you mean? Like, it's just if you want to buy a house, there's only one good reason to buy a house. The only good reason to buy a house is because you want a house. That's it. It's not an investment vehicle. That's like buying a car and saying, I think a car is a good investment vehicle because some people are taxi drivers. Investment vehicles are things that either have some cash flow associated with them or they have some accessible appreciation value, right? So if you buy a house and you rent it out to people, oh, that's a good investment. That is an investment, right? It's an asset, it appreciates in value, and you've got cash flow associated with it. Your house is a place that you live, you moron. You live there. That's a place you live. You can't access the wealth in that because you're not going to be borrowing against it for what? To invest in other things? Like, off, okay? Just, if you want to buy a house, is it not something you can sell when you retire? Is that... Why am I getting? I don't even care. Why do I care? I don't care that much about this. When you talk about, imagine all the people in 2008 that wanted to sell their home when they retire. Wow, congratulations. You've just lost 60% of your net worth because you happen to retire in an off year. Like, no. Out of touch? No, I already told you this is an out of touch take. I agree with you because I'm not financially retarded. The average person is financially retarded. I agree. The in touch statement is to be a retard and to say, well, if I rent an apartment, I'm just setting my money on fire. And if I own a house and it all, because the house is always got a value, and so I always have more money at the end. Yes, that's the in touch take. I understand. Okay, that's fine. Listen, do what you want. I don't care. It's your money, okay? Home's not diversified, but bought how much on CrowdStrike? I'm sorry, do you think the majority or even a plurality of my portfolio is in CrowdStrike right now? Number one, okay? Number two, are we fighting homeowners today? I love fighting homeowners. Biggest L take, home owning is the easiest way to build wealth. Most folks are too financially literate to build a stock portfolio that pulls consistent returns. You don't have to build a stock portfolio. You just have to buy mutual funds or buy ETFs. There are plenty of boring, broad investments. You open an account at Fidelity or probably even the major banks will let you open an investment account and you just buy the ordinary, boring, broad fund tracking shit. And you know what's nice about that? It goes up broadly with the market. It goes down broadly with the market. It's highly diversified. It's incredibly liquidable. You can sell a little bit if you need some money to buy something. You don't have to take out fucking loans against it. Oh my goodness. And you know what? It doesn't have the stipulation that you're forced to live in one fucking area because God forbid, holy fuck, God forbid, you or your wife get a different job. God forbid something happens in your city and you really want to move somewhere else. God forbid your parents get sick and now you have to do long-term care and you can't stay in the same place and you've only owned that house for 2 or 3 or 4 years. And now you got to sell your home again. You got to pay closing costs twice. The market might be in a downturn. Maybe you already done major repairs. You're not even get your fucking money back. Like, whew, that's a lot of liability. For what? Correct, but the only decent argument I've heard against this is that this is the only asset class they get to leverage into thanks to the mortgage. But I totally agree. True. That is true. But I guarantee you the average homeowner doesn't even know what leveraging means. But you could argue with that. You know what? That would actually that would have been a based and epic reply for a mortgageoid to come in and be like, you really think homeowning is a bad investment, Destiny? And I'm like, yeah, give me one good reason why you should view homeownership as a investment. And the guy goes, show me one other security where I can leverage my money 10 to 1 and actually have an investment that gives me like a return on my investment. Who's going to give me those kinds of margins? I'm like, wait, what do you mean leverage your money? It's like, I put $100,000 down on $1 million mortgage. So show me on Robinhood where I can open an account, put $100,000 into account on $1 million investment. Go ahead, Destiny. Like, oh shit. And we're not even getting into FHA loans. I can do 3%. I can put 3% down. Where am I getting these type of investment opportunities anywhere else? 3% down at 2.5% interest? Not now. Now it's like 5 or 6%. Whew, shit. I'd be shaken. Boy, do I have a product for you. It's called Intel Call Options. True. How risky is it to leverage a home? Well, everybody usually leverages when they're buying a home because they're taking out a loan called a mortgage for the home, right? How's your CrowdStrike doing? Is it back yet or is it still on its way back? Oh yeah, actually FHA loan probably wouldn't be smart because you're paying, I think it's called PMI. What does the P stand for? Oh, private mortgage insurance? Or no, you don't pay, or it might just be called mortgage insurance. PMI might be only for conventional loans. Isn't there a special FHA mortgage insurance you pay? Am I making that up? What would you recommend for someone who makes $30K, no degree, and no savings? I don't know, go to school. Educate yourself, invest in yourself and in your future. I'm worried they're going to do some kind of tax on unrealized gains for securities. And that's ever happen? No, no one would ever do that. That would be catastrophic. Somebody would stop them. Somebody would give that in a speech, and then she'd go to write it out, and the staffers would be like, listen, we ran this by the econ dudes that actually know what they're talking about, the finance guys, and they said that if you do this, you will destroy the entire economy. And they'd be like, shit, we'll figure out a way at our next speech to walk back from this cliff. How is paying rent you see no return on ever compared to paying a mortgage that you can get back or make money on in the future? I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't do this. I can't do this explanation every day. It kills me inside. I'm so sorry. Okay? I just can't, but I love you. I love you so much. And you know what? You're absolutely fucking right. When you put money into a mortgage, every single dollar is going towards a principal balance that you're going to be able to get back guaranteed in full in the future in a way that would beat any other equivalent investment. Okay? It's always, you know what Biden says, it's never a good idea to bet against owning a house. Okay? Mortgages own the finish line. It's always good. We're down 22K on our CrowdStrike. It's coming back. We're so close to break even. And my NVIDIA is exploding again. I love Destiny, but he's so fucking narcissistic on takes when he knows he's wrong. Like, home ownership is stupid. Then it shifted to, well, it's dumb because it's not a good investment, soft brain. Let me repeat what I've said since the very beginning, okay? If you want to clue in, okay, on how wealthy people that understand how money management works, manage their money. If you want to manage money like a poor person, like a retard, do that. I don't care. You can do what you want with your money. I don't give a fuck. As long as you have money to subscribe to me, you can spend your extra money however the fuck you want, okay? A house is a place that you buy if you want to live in a house, okay? There are a lot of benefits to living in a house, okay? You have your own space. You can make as much noise as you want. If you own the house, you can do renovations. You can fuck up the walls. You can do it. Like, it's more likely to stay in your family for a long period of time, or you can be there for a long period of time. If you rent, there's no guarantee of that. There are benefits to owning a house, okay? If you want to buy a house, buy it for those reasons. There is a very small potential benefit that maybe you can recover some of the costs or profit by selling it down the road. That is a very minor, small point in home ownership. It should not be half the reason or the majority reason why you buy the house. If anybody tries to sell you a house, like the idea of buying a house as your primary investment or wealth vehicle, then you're spending money like a poor person, like a financially retarded dipshit, okay? But you're free to do it. But houses are places that you pay for so that you can live in them and have life in them and enjoy your life in them. They shouldn't be your primary investment vehicle. They shouldn't be your primary wealth building vehicle. They suffer from low liquidity. It's very impossible to get money out of them. They are highly undiversified. Not only is it a single sector, it's a single unit in a single sector. So they're exposed to all sorts of risk in the market, and they're exposed to real, actual risk, okay? Somebody could crash your fucking house with a car. There are the cost curve. I don't know what you would say, a cost curve. Your volatility over time can be extreme as well. For instance, 2 major repairs over a winter season can cost you a fuck ton of money very quickly that you weren't ready to spend. And trust me, if you live in a cold place and your heater starts to go out in fucking October, okay, you're fucked, all right? That's some shit that you're gonna spend a lot of money on real quick to fix. There's a lot of costs and everything that are involved. Like, people say like, oh, when I own an apartment, my rent is setting money on fire. Oh yeah, and what, when you put a new roof on, that'll last you another 15, 20 years? Like, what? Yeah, that's not setting money on fire. Have you ever seen an amortization table before? Have you seen how much money do you pay in interest over the life of a loan? You don't think that's setting money on fire? Any major repair, any maintenance costs that you have on the property, if you pay a dude to do your lawn or shovel, or if you do it yourself, that's money and then time that's just being set on fire. It's waste. You're setting hours of your life on fire. Like, there are costs and everything associated with owning a home as well. People just seem to pretend those don't exist. They pretend. So whenever I rant about mortgageoids, okay, I'm half memeing, but it's half true as well. There is a huge savings and benefit associated with the fact that any damage that happens to this place, I don't give a fuck. I can walk the fuck away from this. This place could burn down tonight, and I could walk the fuck away and be A-okay. I don't have to file insurance claims. I don't have to do any shit with my property. I don't have to do it. That's for the land. That's for the building owner to figure out. Now, I pay a premium for that because I'm renting, so there's going to be a greater cost associated, but that cost is smoothed over a long period of time, right? I don't have to pay. If my refrigerator and my microwave and my oven break today, I call the landlord and he fixes that shit within a few days or a week, hopefully. That's it. If it was a house, fuck me. I got to go to Nebraska Furniture Mart. I've got to either get a loan or their special credit card or do like a buy as you pay thing. I've got to spend hours of my day to find the right fucking machine. Then I've got to schedule the maintenance guys to show up. I've got to make sure that I got somebody home in order to fucking do it. I've got to and now I've got to make like monthly payments on this. That might be done at interest, or I might do it like there's so much shit. Okay. There's so much shit. And that's before you get into major things. I mentioned the roof. Jesus, you ever been in a basement before? And you're like, was that crack here when I moved in? Is that getting bigger? Jesus, I'm just saying, okay? If you want to invest and make money, then you invest in asset classes that you aren't also using at the same fucking time to like live, like the utility out of them, right? You don't invest in a car to make money that you drive every day, right? That's you get in your car and you drive. You don't expect that to appreciate it. You use it to make money by driving to work, right? I have a six-figure boring investment in mutual funds. Got house to help diversify my portfolio. Not as primary investment. It costs so much overall. Or if you want to get a house, you just get a house because you want to live in a house. That's it. What about investing in real estate, not as a home to live in? That's an investment. That's fine. But that's not your house that you're living in. That's a real investment. Yeah. It's like the difference between buying a car and buying a car for your taxi driver. Just start the rant with, I've owned houses before. Oh, sure. I bought my first house when I was 19. And then I bought another one when I was 27? Whatever one Rachel and Nathan live in now. I sold the other one when I was the 19-year-old one. That casino money, I was making bank. You bought a house at 19? Yeah. Because by that point, me and Rachel were both working at the casino. I was working 60 hours a week. I had a ton of income to show. I think Obama, had just done it was the $8,000 for first-time home buyer credit. And we got a FHA loan. Why? Is that a thing you have to qualify for? Pretty sure we had an FHA loan. And I think it was $115,000. $115K. From South Omaha, baby. The fact that you could get a house so young shows that you're an exceptional person. I am an exceptional person. But part of my exceptionalness is that I was never financially retarded, ever. I had no credit card debt, ever. I never used a credit card, ever. And I didn't buy or spend money on anything, ever. I didn't buy clothes. I wore the same shit. My casino uniforms were the same shit that I wore all through high school. All I had was my computer that I played games on. I pirated everything. Yeah, the only things that I spent money on were my mortgage and my car payments and then my internet. Yeah, I didn't buy shit. I didn't have anything. Isn't the best thing about buying a house only having property taxes by the time you retire so you can afford to retire? The issue is when you're buying a home, the issue is if you're comparing owning the home at the end to having no money. But what you should be comparing it to is if I would have invested this money in the market, what would my money look like at the end of those 30 years? If you buy a house at the end of 30 years, you'll have more money than if you had no money. That's true. But if you would have made a similar investment into market stuff and either lived in cheaper places or rented or whatever, it's possible or likely, depending on your living habits, you would just have more money and it would be in a more liquid, more diversified, easier, everything about it is easier account. Yeah. What's your credit score right now? I don't know. It's like fucking 825 or something. Yeah, I don't think credit scores matter when you're rich. You just buy shit. And if you can show that you have a lot of income, it's not like they're going to turn me down for a loan, I think. I don't know. What if your mortgage payment is the same as your rental payment? That's what most people do when they buy a house. If your mortgage payment is the same as your rental payment, then that probably means you're paying considerably more or you're paying quite a bit more for the house probably, because your mortgage payment and your rental payment are the same, but your rental payment has baked in all the volatility of major repairs. Your mortgage payment has none of that baked in. So as soon as you start you have to start making major repairs in your house or major appliance changes. These are all going to be huge upfront added costs that are, I say upfront, not necessarily upfront, but these are going to be huge one-time costs that aren't going to be smoothed over a long period of time unless you take additional loans to pay for that. Yeah. You have to also acknowledge that renting has its flaws too. For example, the landlord can kick you out at any time, and if you aren't rent controlled, he can raise the rent on you randomly. The landlord cannot kick you out at any time, and the landlord cannot raise the rent on you randomly. This is you have something called a lease. The lease will guarantee you for some period of time that your rent doesn't change or that you won't be kicked out of where you live. The only argument for home ownership is that once you're locked into your home mortgage, you are essentially inflation proof. However, the reverse can come to bite you. Well, it's not. It's just... Yeah. Just don't look at a house like you're building wealth. Buy a house if you want to live in a house. That's it. If you want to live in a house, buy a house or rent a house or buy a house. That's fine. If you're going to buy a house, make sure you're going to be there for at least 5 years, and hopefully make sure that you have the cash reserves to deal with any maintenance issues that come up, and you're probably in an okay spot. Personally, there are times when I like having houses, and there are times when I like living in apartments. I like living in apartments for the last stage of my life because I move around a lot. I also like having houses because it's nice to have like a whole ass full place that you can put your own stuff in, that you have a higher degree of security in, because you know that your lease isn't going to end in a year or 2 years. You're going to get not have the chance to renew. Your mortgage shouldn't be going up. Yeah, it just depends. There's pros and cons. Just don't treat it as your primary wealth investment vehicle. What? Please don't let me. I don't know how many of you guys have ever actually owned a home. Please don't get me stunlocked on this forever. Oh my God. Homeowners you are the worst people. You are the worst types of people. And you're the worst types of people because you don't even own homes. You don't even know what it's like to own a home, okay? Destiny's assuming that the landlord will actually show up or at least work on the issue within a week. I had flooding in my backyard. I had emailed him multiple times. He came over, looked at the problem, said he would come back to it. He never did. Super tedious. Yes, there are landlords. It happens. You know what else there are of? There are people that do work on homes, okay? You ever call a company to come and fix your shit and they show up and they do a horrible fucking job and then it breaks down again in a month and you try to call them back and they're out of business? Yeah, there's shitty people everywhere. Welcome to homeownership or having a fucking landlord. Yes, that is true. The only difference is at least it's a single point of failure with the landlord, but for homeownership, it could be 50 million points of failure. Bro, there's a reason why every single fucking roofer, appliance store, everybody has like infinite lifetime fucking warranties. It's because these companies last for a lifetime of like 3 fucking years, okay? Yes, there can be shitty landlords. There can be shitty repair people. There can be shitty. There are tons of things that can be shitty, right? Jesus, yes. Most landlords don't do shit. I had a leak in my roof and my window because the drain above my apartment was clogged and it was shooting water directly into the top of my window/wall, and they sent 4 people to inspect it over the course of a month where they decided to dry it. And now the corner of my wall is just the wooden exterior, and it's been another month with no word on them on when they plan to fix it. Hopefully before it rains again. LeMayo. If your building is fucked, then your people can literally leave. And now you got a dude who's losing a ton of fucking money, okay? With homes, you have the agency to fix things. Renting, you don't have that option. You're at the behest of your landlord. There's a huge difference. You can file a complaint. Your landlord has an obligation under the lease in order to make sure that the area that you live in is inhabitable. Like, does anyone read VRAC's comment? What, this one? How do you figure people see buying a house a good investment strategy and it just isn't? It's fine at best. Not only will a regular S&P 500 ETF outperform it as far. This guy agrees with me. Why would I not read the comment if he agrees with me? Wouldn't I be more likely to read it because I agree with him? How did filing a complaint go with your ISP? It went horribly because there's only one ISP in my entire fucking city. There's a million different houses to live in. What do you mean? Ask me what it was like to get my stupid fucking heater fixed in the goddamn fucking winter. Bro, me and Rachel had to call this fucking dude out like 50 fucking times, okay? There was like a 2-month period, all right? There was a 2-month period where this shit would get fixed. It would break down a week later. And every time it would come back, there was something wrong with it. It was like, oh, actually, it was the pilot light that was out. We just had to fix the fucking circuit. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, $700. Cool. Oh, and I got to pay. Okay, cool. All right. And then the next time I was like, oh, well, actually, it's not that. It's this control panel is fucking old. Okay, yeah, I guess. So what, you're going to rate me with the 6-inch dildo, or are we using the bad dragon this time? Oh, $500? Okay, just the 6-inch this time. Then next time, it's like, actually, this whole system is really old, and, the whole system is actually out of warranty. It's actually over 700 years old, and you just didn't see that when you inspected the house. So this whole system is obsolete, and it's spraying asbestos into your lungs. So now it's a 72,000. Now fuck you and fuck contractors and fuck every piece of shit fucking job you got to get done on your goddamn fucking house. Fuck this shit. God, listen. There are pros to owning homes, there are pros to renting. But it is so obvious to me when you're talking to a rentoid that dreams of being a mortgageoid, okay? And they're like, God, owning a home is amazing. You call over the contractor and he fixes it immediately and he's so qualified and the work is guaranteed and insured and they'll come back for free if there are any problems. And it's so, fuck you, okay? Oh my God, fuck all of that shit. I hated calling anybody else out ever to work on anything with your house. God forbid you have a fucking, man, you heard me complain about tires. You heard me complain about automotive shops. Bro, you bring a plumber or an electrician into an old fucking house, these motherfuckers turn into Richie Rich. You actually, if you look at them, if you spin them around and you look at them while they're inspecting, okay, they have the money signs in their eyes. I'm like, hey, yeah, so I don't know why, but this light's flickering. Can you tell me what's going on? Well, actually, the circuit breaker, it's not up to code. It's not up to code, you see. What the fuck is, what code? Whose code? The city's code, sir. And, I'm sorry, but for a qualified electrician to even touch this, I'm gonna have to rewire the entire fucking block. Okay, I'm gonna have to come in here, all right, with my guys. Okay, we're gonna have to do all the circuits over again. Also, none of your outlets are grounded. Also, by the way, okay, really? But I thought it had the 3-prong. Yeah, there's no real wire back there. It's all fake. Okay, and now it's gonna cost $20,000. Now your shit is fucked, and I'm gonna get to rewire all of it. Okay, you bring in a plumber. This guy comes in and he's like, sir, I know you said your toilet is clogged, but did you know that you have 3 1/4 inch fittings and they're supposed to be 5 1/10 inch quarter fittings on all of your toilets, and your pipes are not angled at the right degree for elevation, so now we have to install a sump pump because it's going to cause your house to collapse into the fucking earth. Like, there are pros and cons to everything, okay? There are pros and cons to everything, but don't sit here and pretend and tell me that fixing your home is an easy fucking thing. It is not. Okay, the contractor rigmarole is just as bad, or can be just as bad, as the landlord rigmarole. All right, the only difference is at the end of the day, I can walk away from an apartment and a shitty landlord and say, fuck you. I can't walk away from my fucking house, okay? Because now the bank is going to come after me with another bad dragon dildo, and I'm going to get double ass fucked, okay? Fuck that shit. There's pros and cons to everything. That's all I'm saying. Pros and cons to everything, okay? The number one tip to home ownership, though, the most important thing is to go to your basement, make sure that you buy paint that matches the floor exactly. And if you ever see a crack down there, paint over it immediately and sell that house ASAP. As soon as I started getting quoted shit for foundation issues, I was like, oh, hell no, okay? We're about to do 9/11 2.0 in a video game before I'm, what am I even paying for? What is the, 20,000? This house is worth 5 times what you're asking me to fix this for. What am I doing? You have to go into the earth? They train monsters like in Dune or Tremors to, no, that's not happening. That's not happening. I will sink to the earth in my home and I will die happy. This is my coffin. You're watching me sink and I will continue to sink, okay? Listen, pros and cons to everything, okay? There's pros and cons to everything. But don't sit here and pretend that it's easy to be a homeowner. There's definitely issues that go in there as well. Okay? God damn it. The mental stuff comes back to having a sense of security, stability, identity, and freedom to personalize and modify your living space however you want. Owning your own home and land, oh, you're buying land now, is a massive mental buff in my experience. If a landlord wants to sell their property, you're forced to leave, and that could be at an inconvenient time. Moving is extremely stressful in itself. Okay. Yes, typically when you buy a house, you buy the land, you absolute tard. Oh yeah? Really? You own that land? Oh yeah? Can you grow any type of tree that you want on that land? Can you do whatever you want with your yard on that type of land? Do you have a public obligation to, like, say, make your sidewalks clear to a certain level? Otherwise, you could be held liable for injury if somebody's walking and happens to slip and trip on your land. What happens if some dipshit kid wanders into your land and gets killed on some dumb shit, like they fall into a fucking pool and drown, yeah? How much ownership do you have when you've got 50 million different city regulations, okay, about how you're supposed to upkeep your land, right? Get the fuck out of here, okay? My God. It's my own. I'm my own civil servant. Yes, I owned this. This is my domain. Yes. Meanwhile, the branch on your tree extends over the fucking street too much and the fucking National Guard shows up, okay? You're getting swatted and like, sir, You've had 7 days to trim this fucking tree. We're going to take it out for you. So here's a $7,000 bill. The city's going to handle this. And we're going to use our guys. And it's going to be really expensive. And we're going to do a bad job. It's okay. Everything is the pros and cons to everything. That's it, okay? Pros and cons to everything. Destiny, again, the thing that covers you in all this is insurance, but you don't believe in insurance. Oh, insurance. You mean the thing that's really bad when we have one thing to politically argue against, like healthcare, but really good in every other circumstance when we want to argue the opposite way? Oh, yeah. How can I forget about insurance? Oh, the legendary insurance. Yeah, I didn't even imagine that. Yeah, insurance is going to pay the $600 bill to come out for the fucking AC repair dude. Insurance is going to buy me a new window because the dipshit kid across the street threw a football in and broke. Insurance is going to cover my $300 fix. Oh my God. Why didn't I just think about buying the zero deductible gold level insurance for my house? Because why wouldn't I want to pay an extra $10,000 a year to insure my fucking house? But wait a second, I thought that was setting money on fire. I don't have to pay. You know what I pay for my apartment? I pay for something called renter's insurance. You know what that costs? That costs a coffee a month. Okay, it costs me like $42 a year. And sure, I thought we didn't like setting money on fire. Now we want homeowners insurance with zero deductible. Oh wow, good job, dude.
I'm gonna do this your way. I want you to just agree with me on something very foundational first.
Okay.
Landlords stand to gain. Let me phrase this right. Landlords stand to gain enough money to make it worthwhile to rent out extra properties, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, bite the harder bullet. Landlords stand to gain far more money from their investment properties than their tenants do if they were to smartly invest their money aside from paying rent.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so on average?
It depends on how active they are in the management of those properties.
Okay.
Do you want to dive
Well,
into this if you want? But if they're very actively managing things, then I would imagine they'd stand to gain more money. But of course, they're working at a job, right?
I'm trying to work out in my mind how you see people who piss away anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month in rent versus someone that has that money directly funneled into their mortgage, how that person stands to be in a better position to invest liquid capital than the person with a passive income stream who has, again, somebody paying their mortgage for them.
Say, okay.
Or I'll take a step back even.
Yeah.
If I'm a homeowner, I'm going to be paying far less money in upkeep on my home, in mortgage, in property tax, than as a renter I'm paying in rent. Unless I've fucked myself and over-leveraged myself beyond belief.
As a homeowner, you're going to be paying less costs in upfront costs or something.
Because usually, the usual line of talking is, properties are expensive to own and things go wrong and a $10,000 air conditioner to replace. How often does that happen, first of all? And secondly, you could have a couple of 5-figure hits in a year as a landlord and you're still walking to the bank. Like, I don't...
With only if you're renting to a whole bunch of different people, right?
Not even. I myself rent from an older couple, and this is their only rental property. It's a townhome. It's a modest townhome. There's no chance in hell that I'm going to be able to stand to monetarily benefit as well as they do by paying rent here compared to them just by passively sitting on it. They'll make more money from that.
They're not passively sitting on it. They're actively using it for cash flow. You're renting from them. They're using it. You're using it.
Yeah, when I say passive, I mean they own the asset now, and it's both appreciating in value and generating passive income stream for them.
Yeah, well, that second part is really important. It's not passive at all. It's an active investment. It's currently being utilized by somebody. It requires maintenance and upkeep, and it requires somebody to service the legal side of things as well. Somebody's got to maintain your lease, do payment processing. It's being actively used for cash flow. Yeah,
all of those things, they all add up to a much greater standing than somebody who's paying rent.
I don't understand what you mean greater. Like, the guy paying rent isn't making money off of the property at all. So I don't understand.
No, he has a better ability to invest money by owning the property than the person paying rent. Or if I'm just a homeowner who's not a landlord, I'm in a better position to invest my money than somebody paying rent, because I'm just not losing as much of it. Unless you think that landlords are hemorrhaging money out here, that they're losing money by having property or by homeowning. Forget the landlord part of it, just by owning a home. Unless you think homeowners are hemorrhaging money every year compared to if they were renting.
I think a homeowner, yes, is hemorrhaging money if he buys a house and leaves it sit and doesn't live in it. Yes. You're literally just hemorrhaging money. Yes.
Well, no, what? No, if they are living in it. I'm saying, what?
If they are living in it, then they're still like spending money, but they are getting a place to live. So I mean,
yes, but I'm going to be spending less money than if I was renting, like pissing away less money. Talk about upkeep or things that don't directly benefit me, like paying into equity.
well, I don't know what you mean when you say pissing away money.
Rent is pissing away money as a renter, and upkeep costs and maintenance or whatever, essentially pissing away money as a homeowner.
I don't, when you say, okay. Let me take a step back, okay? Like you say pissing away money, but maintenance on your house is not pissing away money. Paying rent is not pissing away money. You're getting something in exchange for your money in both circumstances. So
yes, I'm aware. In a figurative sense, though, I think you catch my drift and what most people mean when they say pissing away money.
Yeah, but that's the entire point of contention is I think people have a really stupid framing of like rent and mortgage payments. So I wouldn't agree with calling it pissing away money, because then you've already like begged the conclusion into the argument by calling it that.
Okay, paying money then.
Yeah.
Something that's not directly contributing back to me financially.
I think in general, if you have a property that you can live in for 30 years, over the course of those 30 years, if you are renting it from somebody else versus buying it, I think on the aggregate, you're probably going to be paying more to rent it than you would to the other person versus if you were buying it.
Cost? No, the cost to the renter just through rent alone is far more than the landlord's cost to the property by owning and maintaining it.
I don't think it's going to be far more. I think it's going to be a bit more. There's going to be your profit margin is probably going to be around 10% would be my guess, but it's going to be more. But it's going to be over a long period of time. It's going to be the cost is going to be much smoother, whereas the property owner is going to have to deal with more volatility unless they have insurance or whatever. But that's going to eat into their profits as well.
Yeah, but they're also paying into their equity. So any dollar I spend in rent, I never see a gain. But for a landlord, if they're paying into their equity, sure, they still have their maintenance and their upkeep costs. But when it's time to cash out, I'm getting a lot of that back.
Yeah, but you've also lost a lot of it as an owner to maintenance repairs and stuff. That
is a drop in the bucket. Your house appreciation alone will drive that back.
Ideally, but you don't know that.
Not ideally. That's like 90% of cases, unless you live in bumfuck Nebraska or something where the housing market's probably what's the median home value?
Why would where you live have any influence on whether or not houses tend upwards over time? Are you saying the only way you can make money off of having a house is if you live in New York City, LA, San Francisco?
I'm saying when you own a more expensive house and it appreciates, you gain more money out of that than a cheaper house that appreciates.
As a percentage of a gain or as an absolute value?
As an absolute value of the cash in equity that you own.
Sure, then just buy a bigger house in a shitty place, I guess. I mean, it's the same concept. I don't think it matters necessarily as much where you're at, but...
Okay, to back up, I said a landlord will stand to gain far more than just through appreciation of their home than they're ever going to spend on maintenance, unless you live in a rural area where houses are cheap and the appreciation isn't going to net you that much.
You're going to gain more, but it's not going to be far more. My guess is going to be that the profit margins for being a landlord are going to be about in line probably with the profit margins of any other industry. I doubt it's going to be outlandishly huge in one industry and not in the other because everybody would just invest in that industry. It's probably, my guess is probably about 10%, unless you actively manage it, in which case it's going to be more, but that's because you're literally working. It's your job.
You say that, yeah, the whole thing's spurred, by the way, because initially earlier you had said you don't understand why people want to own homes as like a primary goal in their life.
No, I don't think I said I don't understand. I understand it. The reason is because people are financially retarded. Yeah, because people don't understand how money works.
I know, but that's what I mean. And then you pivot to the financial argument. I'm saying it's not, for most people, I've told you, it's not even a financial consideration other than being able to afford the damn thing. To have a home is to not have the rug pulled out from under you. It's to not have a 5-year-old going to school and then have your landlord go, sorry, my daughter's moving in, you gotta go.
That first of all, you have leases that you sign for periods of time. Number one, number two,
like 2 years.
Sure. Number two,
and those can be gotten around.
In that case, the bank can get around and take your home. I mean, eminent domain could seize your property.
Well,
like anything can be
what?
gotten around. What do you mean? Things can be gotten around.
No, I'm saying a landlord can quite literally break a lease under certain conditions that they absolutely will abuse and do.
If you're violating your lease agreement, sure.
No, like just if circumstances change for them and they want to buy you out or pay you out or whatever.
What do you think is the percentage chance of that happening?
Okay, but this is why it doesn't matter if it's low. It's the consequence of what could happen. If I'm thinking about owning a home, I'm thinking about, thank God I don't have to worry about that happening, even if it is a small chance.
Okay, and if you lose your job, you can lose your house. You can lose your home.
Okay, that's easier to bounce back from than, oh shit, now I've got to find another place to live in short order, because most eviction orders are a month. And then I've got to make sure that it's still around kind of where I work, which funnily enough was something you touted as a benefit to being a renter.
You think bankruptcy is easier to manage than getting kicked out of your apartment because you don't have a job anymore?
Bankruptcy? How? Let's not jump the gun here. What?
If you lose your job and you can't pay your mortgage...
Okay, if you lose your job, most people find another job in pretty short order to help pay the bills and slowly build their way back up. Most people don't just immediately face bankruptcy from losing their job. Especially if you're a homeowner, if you wanted, you could probably do a reverse mortgage or refinance or whatever to like what?
On a refi, you're going to have to first of all, this is what?
No. This is what's so baffling. Is it's like why?
It's baffling because you're financially retarded. You can't just refi your house, right? You're going to have to pay closing costs again and a whole new loan. So no, you can't just like, oh, I lost my job. Let me just go to the bank and get a refi.
Okay,
by the way, interest rates are really high right now. So if you refi your shit, you're fucked. By the way, you're going to be at a way higher interest rate than whatever the fuck you got 2 or 3 years ago. So no, what do you mean? Yeah, Jesus.
Bankruptcy then. I guess it's bankruptcy time if you lose your job and you own on. There's no other option.
I didn't say there was no other option, but I'm saying that when you've got a home mortgage, okay, that's hanging over your head and you lose your job, that's a really scary concept. Yeah, there is no like, can't afford my house. Let me just go.
As scary as losing your job renting, just by the way.
It's not, because you don't have
It is actually, you're right. It's scarier because I don't have any equity to fall back on if I lose my job.
You don't have equity to fall back on. What are you going to do? Start borrowing against the value of your house to pay your mortgage payments?
Your house.
What?
If it's that dire that you're saying you're facing bankruptcy from losing your home, you could just sell your house. This is what's retarded. This is not a financial goal. Otherwise, if it was, people wouldn't be thinking like.
First of all, we have to hope that you're enough years into your house. Okay, we have to hope that you're enough years into your house to even be positive on it. Okay, because it especially depends on what your down payment it was, and it depends on where the market is right now. Because now you're being forced to sell when you might not want to. Okay. Number two, you understand that in the beginning years of your loan, you're paying a huge amount of interest. It's front.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
I know.
Okay, so there's no guarantee that if you have
operating. Okay. I'm operating in fantasy land where we're facing bankruptcy after losing a job as a homeowner.
Why do you think how do you think that's fantasy land?
Because that's probably 10. I don't know, but I would have to guess that's 10% of cases, maybe or less. Losing a job, unless I don't know, like it would depend on the reason you lost your job. Maybe you're a raging alcoholic, then you're probably fucked. But if you got laid off or some shit happened, do you think that most people who lose their jobs, that's it for them?
It depends on the job you lose. Yes, it can be. It can super fuck your life up. And if you have a home and a mortgage,
it sucks. But it's not bankruptcy or losing my home levels of fucked all the time. These are the worst case scenarios we hear about.
Okay. But the landlord coming in and just deciding arbitrarily, well, I'm going to cancel your lease and kick you out. That's like an ordinary event.
I didn't say it's an ordinary event, but it's something nobody wants to have to contend with in the back of their mind as a possibility.
Same thing with bankruptcy.
No, losing your job would be the equivalent there. And by the way, yeah, when we're talking about the ultimate goal in life for homeownership for people, which is most people's goal, I don't know what you think goes on in people's minds, why they think it's so attractive to own a home. If they're not thinking financially smart, or you think they're all financially retarded, what do you think is the motivating factor?
People are retarded. They see house asset appreciate. They don't understand what opportunity cost means. They don't understand what maintenance cost means. They've never looked at an amortization table in their entire life. They don't know that 20-30% of their mortgage payment might be escrow, depending on where they're at. They don't understand the other hidden costs in homeownership purchasing. They don't know what it means to smooth out like volatility in a loan and to pay a premium for that. Like, I don't know. There's a million reasons why people have retarded ideas where like, oh, if I buy a house, I make money. I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to say?
That's it. That's all I need to hear out of you is that you don't understand the fundamental idea behind owning a home for most people. It's not an investment vehicle or an investment decision for most people.
I already
They're not
said
thinking
that.
about-
If you don't want to think about it as a primary investment vehicle or a primary wealth building vehicle, you just want to own a house, that's the best reason to have a house. That's why you should buy a house.
Yes, when you were reading the Reddit thread earlier, there's a person literally laid it out for you for stability, not having to move, laying your roots down, building a lifestyle, and you said it as if it was some bullshit throwaway comment. But this is literally what the American dream was founded on, obviously.
So what, Europeans don't dream? What?
Right? What?
It's only an American thing that, like, if you don't have a house, your life sucks and your whole thing is fucked. What do you, like, that's such a retarded fucking idea.
It's only in everywhere. If you don't own the property that you live on, you're under constant duress that you might have to move to God knows where you can afford. Here's another fun thing that happens. What do you think happens to your rent every time you have to move, typically?
Depends on what the markets are like.
No, it really doesn't, because the markets don't go up and down in housing, Destiny. They don't fluctuate to the point of where there's a time to get in on renting and a time to get out. On housing, on purchasing, sure, but that's largely because of interest rates.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not a financial decision. You can say you understand that, but then it should be crystal clear to you why so many people, the vast majority even, are seeking homeownership. So that they can live in the same spot, so that they can have their kid go to school and not have to worry about getting another place that has to be near that school, or else their kid has to move schools. So that they can make renovations on their home. None of that doesn't ring true. You can't see that and go, that makes sense. Now I actually understand why we should probably push hard to make sure people can own homes, instead of just demanding or telling everybody to just rent because it works for you.
I think it would be better if people made rational decisions about where they live and they don't just automatically assume that owning a home is good because it's better than renting because it's owning a home. That's fucking retarded. You're saying that it is an incredibly exceptional circumstance that somebody might lose their job and then lose their home, okay? That's what happened to my family. My mom quit her job. She ended up quitting it because of some crazy, stupid shit relating to some fucking children. And then all of a sudden, not only did we lose our job and all of our shit got shut off, we lost their house, okay, because they couldn't afford the mortgage payments, and then because they had a huge house hanging over them, they had to file a fucking Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which destroyed their credit, okay, for like the rest of their fucking lives. So when you're telling me like, well, it's never happened, this was my life, is moving through like 3 or 4 different fucking houses, okay, until my mom finally moved to Florida. My dad said, fuck it, and moved in with my grandma to a fucking apartment. And the worst thing that can happen to you there is you get kicked out of your apartment, and that's it. So this idea that you're describing like this impossible fucking event, and then you're saying like, oh, well, rent doesn't change, rent never goes up and down. Of course rent goes up and down. What are you talking about? You literally Google price of rent, and you can say go up and down depending on what the markets are at. Of course this happens. What do you mean it never goes?
Or come on.
Yes, market forces. Yes, rent goes up and rent goes down. When housing prices go up, rent tends to go up. When housing prices go down, rent tends to go down. Yes, that's how the markets work. Yes.
Okay. I'll take away the bankruptcy part because it's sort of a red herring in the conversation. It's not to do with what I'm talking about.
You take over the what part?
The what happens if I lose my job, or what happens if we're faced with bankruptcy. These are outlier situations. Most people.
Well, if we're not going to worry about the biggest downsides of assuming 6 or 7 figures in debt, then I'd be like, yeah, but this is part of what the responsibility that you take on as a homeowner. Yes.
Yeah, and you're faced with much of the same when you're renting.
No, you don't have a liability like that. What are you talking about? The only liability you have is your lease.
Have a liability.
Wait, what?
For a bit. There's a very specific situation you're describing. It's not the super niche situation I'm describing. You're describing a situation where somebody has over-leveraged themselves, has fucked up and lost their job horrifically, can't get a new one quickly enough to save and salvage their home, et cetera, et cetera. This is why I'm saying to step away from it, because you're obviously locked into this. Because it's
but you're on the other side. You're in a world where like the landlord comes in and he says, "I'm violating the lease and kicking you out and breaking it up."
No, I'm not. I'm saying that any number of things can happen when you're a renter to force you to move if you don't want to.
Like what? No, they don't. They shouldn't happen that much. No, what are you talking about?
It can, and it's not such an impossibility or a small % chance that it could happen that people aren't thinking about it. That's like top of the list for me as a renter thinking about homeownership.
Wait, what is at the top of the list? What is your worry?
To be forced to move.
Forced to move how? What for what?
By a landlord for any reason that they provide. If you're on a 2-year lease or something like that and it ends, you don't just get re-upped for another 2 years. It converts to a month to month, at which point at any day they can decide, actually, I'm going to evict you.
How old are you?
29.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Because I don't know what
but
your 2-year lease should never convert to a month to month. If your lease is converted to a month to month, it means
does.
it shouldn't. That's just wrong.
This is also. How can you even say when this is also?
Because
greatly
I
varies based on
rented.
state?
No, because no.
I understand.
You should be re-signing a new lease before your lease term expires. Why would you let it go to a month to month and then pay whatever the 50% increase is before you renegotiate a new lease? If you don't do one, then you move at the end of your lease term. Why would you wait for it to lapse to a month it's going to be way more expensive and then try to redo it at that point?
It's based on state and it's the law. Oh my God, this is so fucked-hearted. It's the law sometimes that it has to automatically convert to a month-to-month lease.
In what state? Maybe it is. Maybe there's some state. I didn't see this in Nebraska, California, or Florida, but maybe in other states, maybe there is. Shelby, or what state? What state should I look up?
I don't know.
Maybe in some it does.
I don't know, but I live in Canada where it is the law of the land. So, but it's the same deal. And
so you're telling me, so if I look up, hold on, just to be clear, if I look up in Canada, if you have a year-long lease in Toronto, okay, and you're coming up to month 10 or 11, you're telling me that you don't get in the mail a thing saying, hey, your lease is expiring. Here are new terms that we're offering you. If you don't make any decision by this point, we either are evicting you or assuming you're moving out, or you're going to be converted to a month to month where you have to pay this fee every single month. You're telling me you don't get a letter in the mail like that? Instead, it has to lapse. You have to pay at least 1 month of fucked up rent, and then you go to your landlord and you ask them to renegotiate?
I don't know what you think goes on, but no. And again, I'm assuming this goes on in several states too that have renter protection laws, or at least more than others. But if I sign a 2-year lease for a certain amount of rent, at the end of that 2 years, if we haven't renegotiated in some way and both agreed and signed to it, it just converts automatically to month and continues.
Yes. If you don't renegotiate a new term or do anything else, yes, that will happen. Correct.
Well, and
yes.
Nobody does that because they can only increase the rent by a certain amount every year anyway, which they will. So what would be the point of the renegotiation if you're going to say no as a renter? I'll stick with what I've got, thanks.
Oh.
What?
Okay, wait. So your month to month isn't even. Okay, you're a Canadian. This makes more sense. Your month to month isn't that much.
You can't do that Canada meme without pointing out the difference.
No, I'm about to. That wasn't even an insult. If you live in a rent-controlled unit, your lease converting to a month to month doesn't matter that much, I'm guessing.
It's not rent controlled, but there's rent caps on increases each year, which also is a thing I'm pretty sure in a lot of states.
Sure. Well, for instance, in my studio downstairs, I think I pay like $3,800 a month, and if I didn't renew the lease for another year, the month to month would increase to like $5,500 a month. From $3,800 to $5,500 a month if it goes to a month to month. But if you live in a place where the rent increase is capped, or if you're living in a place where it's rent controlled, you said it was rent controlled, but the rent increase is capped, then I can understand you wanting it to convert to a month to month. But in most places in the US, at least every place I've ever rented, if your 12, 13 month, whatever term lease converts to a month to month, you're paying like 20, 30, 40% more. But if you're telling me that the month to month on yours doesn't increase that much, then that makes sense what you're saying. Sure. Okay.
All right. I'm just trying to circle back to how we figure. So your average advice for people is you shouldn't, if you're trying to be smart, you shouldn't be moving towards homeownership.
My average advice to a person, my average advice is if you want to buy a home, make sure that you're buying the home because you want to live in a home, okay? That's what you're buying it for. You're paying it for a house because you want to live in a house, okay?
Yeah, that's everyone.
No, it's not. Number one. And number two, make sure that you're going to be there for at least 5 years. If you're not sure that you're going to be there for at least 5 years, rent something until you're more sure.
Again, basically everyone.
Okay.
What? Okay, but then so now from my end of things, the horde of people like me screaming from the rooftops are asking for more housing to drive down the cost and subsidies for first-time home buyers to increase the floor of the market.
The what? Say that again?
I said, okay. And then from my end of the equation, people like me are saying, can we please get on board with building a lot more housing and subsidizing first-time home buyers more?
Everybody should be on board with building more housing, of course.
Well, you'd be surprised to find the number of people that aren't, or at least that don't agree that that's the primary driving force here on how to not fix, but address the problems in the housing market. Okay, well, from where I'm sitting, that's how the conversation should go in my mind. Housing is extremely expensive in major metropolitan areas because of the land demand and because of how popular it is to live there. So we should be trying to build a lot more in and around those areas and densifying to increase the number of units we have.
I don't disagree with that at all.
The common talking point backwards is building houses more won't actually decrease the value because more people will just want to live there as you build more. I don't know.
Why does this? How long have you watched my stream for?
What? I don't know. It's odd for me that you'd have no pushback against that if you're at the same time telling people that they're wrong for their main dream and goal being home ownership.
Your main dream and goal can be homeownership, just not because you think it's an amazing investment in a wealth building vehicle.
Nobody thinks this, though.
This is what
That's what I'm
everybody
trying
said.
to get across.
If you look in the United States, I can't speak to Canada, but the United States, the home is literally the primary wealth builder for the majority of American families.
Yeah, the nature of the beast, because nobody invests at all.
Yeah, I know.
Again,
That's a problem.
nobody
That's
thinks
bad. That's not good.
Okay, but people don't think about it at all, and they don't think about it when they're buying a house either. They're thinking about setting their roots and settling down, right? They're not thinking of, oh yes, this will accrue me much more wealth over the years.
Okay.
That's just a safety net. For
I feel like I
lose my house
see.
or if I get bankrupt.
I feel like I see a lot of people saying stuff like that, but you know.
Okay, and I see a lot of people doing everything except just get on board with the whole please build more houses.
Yeah, that has always been my number one thing. I've never disagreed with that. So, yeah, but I
Well,
agree with the build more houses. Yeah, of course.
Please just let's lead with that. We can all.
I always lead with that. I always talk about this when it comes to housing policy. Yes.
No, you don't. I've seen it. Okay, there's like 3 or 4 times I've seen you always trot out the same garbage shit, which is houses are expensive to own. Nobody contests this. Nobody thinks this. No, like what? I don't know where that comes from. And and like I said earlier, homeowners, they still make bank from their appreciation. Doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Based.
But I'm glad we can agree that we should be building more houses. This is good.
And by houses, we mean ultra high density, high rise condos and apartments, right?
Depends where you live. Where I live right now, there's a lot of high density and a lot of single family homes and no middle housing for low rises and stuff, townhomes, which is what there should be more of for here specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, can you hit a 950 one of these fucking days, please? Kind of tired of watching my favorite streamer suck shit at Rhythm.
Okay, I'll do my best. Be careful. Okay, I'm doing a 960. Just to get on this fucking guy. If I get a 960, that guy will never own a home, okay? He's 29, he's renting right now. If I get a 960, he will never, ever own a home. I'm going to move to Canada and have 20 children, and we're all going to vote against expanding housing. My whole family is going to follow him around everywhere he goes, and we're always going to show up at every city council meeting, and we're going to say, no, not in our backyard. We are not building more housing. Wow, 960. 960. My first one ever. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Listen, 947 is enough to keep him out of a house until he's